I'm getting ready to clean this spot up. I found these branches here that I forgot were here. I paid good money for these a few years ago. I used to buy thousands and thousands of these. People would go out in the woods, find these branches, bring them to me. I would write them a check right on the spot. I would buy as many of these as they would bring me. These ones are old and rotting. They're no good anymore. Back then, if someone would have brought me a load of thousands of these, I would have been happy to pay for them because I could clean them up, sell them for more, and make a good profit. The crazy thing about this is millions and millions of dollars worth of this stuff gets burned every year. It's considered brush, well, because it is brush most of the time. A lot of times people want to clean up their property, so to get rid of all this brush, they just burn it or have it masticated or otherwise dispose of it. Big forestry thinning projects, fuels reduction projects. A lot of times government money, your tax money, is used to fund these fuels reduction and thinning projects to dispose of this material that I used to pay for. I don't know if I said that in the right way to get it to sink in, but every year millions of dollars are being spent to dispose of this kind of material that is worth millions. Well, obviously each branch isn't worth millions, but if you look at all the material that's being disposed of every year, it's worth millions. There's a worldwide demand for it. I was having a hard time keeping up with that demand. So what is this stuff anyway? Let's go up the hill where some of it's growing. I'll show you. What are those branches? They are manzanita branches, which of course come from manzanita trees, which can sometimes be trees, sometimes they're just bushes. Here's an example of one right here. They really like the ones like this that are shaped like miniature trees. I used to take thousands of these, stuff them into 40-foot shipping containers, then ship them all the way to the other side of the world, along with other shapes and sizes of manzanita products too. A lot of them went to the UK, a lot of them went to the Middle East. I and my crew would pack those shipping containers as tight as we could with these. The more of these we could stuff into a container, the more cost effective it was for my customers. But why am I telling this story? I know most people don't have access to manzanita, but my customers also wanted other types of branches too. These are the ones I had access to. I'm telling the story because I think it's a good analogy for the opportunities that are out there. At the height of this business, I was becoming the go-to guy in the world for manzanita. It got to where I was constantly turning down new customers because it was all I could do to keep up with demand from my existing customers. One of the big bottlenecks there was finding good help to keep the production going. If I could have kept production going up and didn't have to turn down all those customers, in a short time I very easily could have turned this product into $1 million product. Maybe not $1 million in profit, but $1 million in revenue. You have to be careful when people talk about their businesses. They throw out numbers. A lot of times those numbers are revenue, which is much different than actual profit. As it was, I was already well on my way there just with this product. I was very quickly becoming the manzanita kingpin of the world. Although there may have only been one, I don't know if there's more than one other person exporting this stuff in the world. I might be making this sound more impressive than it actually is. If in this video it seems like it's a cloudy day, then all of a sudden it seems like it's a sunny day, then all of a sudden we're back to a cloudy day, don't pay any attention to that. It's probably just your overactive imagination. Or maybe the weather. Yeah, it's just the weather. That's what it is. Of all the possible products there are in the world, why did I get into this one? Ah, so nice of you to ask. It's because I had so much of it. A lot of this property was choked with thick manzanita, a lot of it like this. It doesn't handle snow load very well. We get a big heavy snow and a lot of these fall over. Then they grow up into this big tangled mass. Since we decided to stop doing periodic wildfire about 100 years ago and instead decided just to let things grow up over decades until they're so thick we end up having catastrophic wildfire, well, that's what we ended up with. Just these thick masses of manzanita that are so thick you can't even walk through it. See, I just run into it when I try to walk through it. Ugh. Ugh. See, every direction I go, I just bump into it. Only way to get out of there was through the little hole I found to get in there. This channel's regular viewers are quite familiar with this spot. It didn't always look this way. It used to look more like this. If we crash through my green screen, go down and take a look, we still have some remnants of the old stumps. These are just some of the bigger ones that are still left. Most of the stumps that were here, I pulled them out of the ground and sold them. Most of those didn't go overseas. Most of those went to Florida. I only sold the stumps for a short time because I was so busy filling export orders for the branches. The stumps were I just didn't have time for them. And much of the rest of the property, these old manzanita stumps are still here. I never did get to them. I think a lot of these would still be sellable. I didn't want to have so much of this property being like this, which is just asking for catastrophic wildfire. I wanted it to be more like this. And this. It was even in the timbered areas too. A lot of these places, it was hard to walk through them. Instead of paying a whole bunch of money to clean this property up, I found a way to get paid well to clean it up myself. I let my customers pay to clean my property up. And I didn't take it all. I thinned out the high fire hazard overcrowded junk and left some of the nicer specimens. Create some wildlife diversity, and they look nice too. If you look around, you can see a lot of the stumps. As far back as you can see, that's how thick it used to be. That was all working out well. I was making money. I was cleaning the place up, but eventually I was cleaning the place up too much. I was starting to run out of material. If I was to keep going, I would have had to take out these nice specimens too, and eventually I would have ran out of those too. It wasn't long before I was starting to realize I was running out of manzanita, which was the original objective, was to thin out and get rid of the excess manzanita. But my customers didn't see it that way. They wanted me to continue sending them manzanita, and they continued enticing me to do so by continuing to offer to send me significant chunks of money. This is my other green screen spot. I'm not actually out in the woods. I am in a production studio in LA. I do everything with a green screen. It just makes it look like I'm out in the woods. I left a lot of the larger woody debris, pieces of manzanita. It's wildlife habitat, and the big pieces aren't that much of a wildfire hazard. But if I ever want them, they're here. It makes amazing firewood, and it has a great smoke flavor for cooking. In some areas, the manzanita is sprouting back from seed. That will be a fire hazard eventually. But I'll deal with that later. And after they get a little bigger, I know how to make money dealing with that. But this worked out so well for cleaning up my property, and my customers, they just kept wanting more and more and more of it. More customers kept coming along. They wanted more too. I decided to create a situation where landowners or anyone who had access to manzanita could cut it off their property, clean up their property, whatever they want to do, bring those branches to me. I give them money for them. 10, 20, 30 years before that, if I would have found someone who was buying branches the way I was, and I could have done that, just brought my branches to them, they give me money for them, I probably would have blown a happy fuse. I would have been so happy about that. This place would have got cleaned up a lot sooner. I would have made some good money way back then, when making good money would have been a really good thing. And I wouldn't have had to go through all the hassle of figuring out myself how to sell sticks to the Middle East. I put out advertisements looking for people to supply me with material. I went through hundreds of people. A lot of those people, it was a less than enjoyable experience. I had a few people who did pretty well. One of the best suppliers I had was a lady who lived not too far away from here. She ended up being my biggest supplier. A few other people, they worked out well for a while. But people have lives. Some of them just eventually ran out of material. Some of them would cut material for me for a while, and then something else would come up that they would do. I wasn't employing them, I was just giving them the opportunity to sell me branches whenever they wanted to. And that's when they did it, whenever they wanted to, not necessarily whenever I needed them. I'm guessing you might be wondering, what are these things? What were they doing with them? Why were people sending me money to send them what were essentially container loads of sticks? So nice of you to ask. A lot of times when I would get into conversation with someone about this, tell them what I was doing, they would say, "Oh, I know what those are for. Those are bird perches. They're for birds." And they were always so confident with their conclusion that these are for birds. But they're not for birds. They have nothing to do with birds. They were decorative branches. People use these for all kinds of decorations. They'll take one of these and they'll put them, well, they'll take some of them and they will combine them and make actually, I don't know what they did with them. They were just decorative branches. People use them for decorations. What I did know was they wanted them, and they wanted a lot of them. And what I knew was that's a really good thing, because I am in a part of the world where one of our biggest problems here is we have way too many sticks. They are in a part of the world where they don't have enough sticks. It made a great relationship. That is the essence of business. Find someone who has a pain point. I found these customers who had a pain point. They want these sticks because they have customers who want these sticks. If they sell these sticks to those customers, they will make money, but they are missing out on all that money because they don't have these sticks. I sent them these sticks. I solved their pain point. There you have it. You just learned the essence of how to succeed in business. If you can learn how to find people who have pain points, preferably people with money, then be the person who can solve those pain points for those people, you'll probably do well in life. You'll do much better doing that than you will complaining about the economy and how there's no opportunities. It's so hard to get by in life. You don't even need to go to Wharton now. I just gave you the basics of business. Anyway, I think I got a little off track there. That was only one of the products, the frilly decorative branches. The other major product, actually it became the bigger product, which were these ones. They didn't have all the little twigs. They were just the framework of a branch. They would take these branches, bolt them together. Sometimes they would bolt them to a larger trunk, put fake bark, fake foliage on them, and build artificial trees. They would look like real trees, sometimes really big ones. They would end up in some hotel lobby or shopping mall in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Egypt. They went all over the place. If you're traveling around the world and you see a big artificial tree in some, or even small ones in some building, I may have supplied some of the parts for that. I was out here disassembling real trees, loading the pieces up into 40-foot shipping containers, shipping them to the other side of the world, where people would unload them, use the pieces to build artificial trees. Are we a weird species or what? Yes, we are weird, but instead of fighting the weird, I think it's best to learn how to take advantage of it. We have way too many sticks here. They don't have enough sticks there. That's just opportunity waiting for somebody to take advantage of it. People would sometimes ask me, why don't you sell these local? Why don't you sell them in the United States instead of sending them overseas? It's because we already have enough sticks here. It's not a big pain point. People aren't upset here because they don't have enough sticks. We have too many. But in the Middle East, they don't have many sticks there. If I tried to sell sticks here, it'd be hard to sell them, and people would expect them to be cheap because we already have so many sticks. But in the Middle East, where they don't have many sticks, the price is going to be much higher. I would rather sell sticks to the Middle East, where it's easier to sell them at a higher price, than trying to sell cheap sticks here. One of the big challenges of this business, after figuring out how to get the material from here to way over there, and aside from the challenge of, well, the whole business, the customers wanted most of the material to be sandblasted, to take the bark off. Manzanita bark is beautiful, especially when it's fresh cut, but after it dries out, it loses a lot of its luster. I think sandblasting made it even more beautiful. It would expose all the colors of the wood underneath. It's a really beautiful thing to do to manzanita. And especially for the tree building material, I think the sandblasted wood gave them a better surface to work with than the bark did. Sandblasting can be really expensive. The local companies I worked with charged anywhere between $120 to $150 an hour, which I priced into the branches. Two of those companies worked out well for a while. One of them was really good. He was really fast. It was good until he got so busy, took on another business, he couldn't physically do it himself. He would hire other people to do it. And the people you hire are generally never as good as the business owner. He was fast, they were slow. I had to pay $125 an hour for them to not do a very good job. My cousin had a sandblasting business. That worked out for a while, but with him, I am very thankful he taught me how to sandblast. So with that, eventually, I just got all the equipment, started doing it myself. I built this sand booth, which I have, that's been sitting here the last few years collecting junk. Got a big compressor powered by a John Deere diesel engine, supplies the compressed air for the sand pot. All of this stuff would not be in here, the compressor would be outside. I'd put a big pile of branches in the middle and go to town on it. That's the dangerous end. By doing the sandblasting myself, I was then able to get the job done when I needed to get it done. I saved myself one of my biggest expenses, actually my biggest expense. Sandblasting is weird because I hated it, but at the same time, I really liked it. I would come in here wearing what looked like a spacesuit, gave full protection, blew in purified air so I didn't have to breathe the dust. You get in that suit with the sound of the machine around you, it just blocks out the rest of the world. You can get in here, start working at this stuff. You can almost get into a Zen-like state. I think that was part of it. It just blocked out the rest of the world. Sometimes it was really relaxing. Other times it was really annoying. I kind of miss it. A little. Very little. Actually, I'd be happy to never do it again. Well, okay, maybe for an hour or two. On some of my past videos, some viewers have noticed this trailer in the background. They've asked in the comments, what's the story with this trailer? This is the story of that trailer. This is what I used to use for transporting that material to my warehouse. The next part I'm a little bit reluctant to tell, and I'll tell you why in a moment. There was a short time where I did experiment with a bird product. I had my cousin build these bird stands for a lady in Los Angeles who had a bird shop. They were these bird perch stands for parrots and other obnoxious birds to hang out on. He did a good job of making them, but it just didn't work out. I didn't make any money off of it. He didn't make enough money off of it. We were trying to sell sticks in the United States. We already have plenty of sticks in the United States. There's just not a lot of profit trying to sell sticks in a place where sticks are abundant. I would rather sell sticks where sticks are expensive. I was reluctant to tell that story about the birds because what I found is when some people get the idea that I was exporting this wood for bird perches, they never get that idea out of their heads. Manzanita is used for bird perches and other pet supplies. When people would hear that I'm selling manzanita, they just assume it's for birds. And they never believe anything else, no matter what I tell them. There were several people, every time I saw them, we would have the same exact conversation. They would ask, "Are you still selling manzanita?" "Yeah." "Those are for birds, right?" "No, it has nothing to do with birds. Some of it they use for decorations. The other, they use them for building artificial trees." "Oh." Next time I would see them, "You still selling manzanita?" "Yeah." "Those are for birds, right?" "No, it has nothing to do with birds. Some of it they use for decoration. Some of it they use for building artificial trees." "Oh." Next time I would see them, "Those are for birds, right?" I would say bird brain, but that wouldn't be nice, so I'm not going to do it. I was reluctant to tell the part about the birds because even though I'm going to say 99.1 million% of what I was shipping had nothing to do with birds, that bird stuff we did was just a very small thing we did for a short time. There are going to be some people who they will not get it out of their heads that I was not exporting container loads of bird perches around the world. Had nothing to do with bird perches. Some of it was decorative, others were pieces for building artificial trees. It can be very easy to poke fun at other people for doing things like that, but my guess is we all have our versions of it. Maybe there's a lesson there. I'm not sure what it is, but I think when people believe something, it can be really hard to get them to unbelieve what they believe, even when what they believe just isn't so. Now you might be asking, why have you been talking about this product in past tense as if it was something you used to do but no longer do? Ah, so nice of you to ask. Well, that's because this product was something I used to do but no longer do. The reason I stopped, or I should say reasons, I could make a whole video about that. The short version of the story, it grew to a point where I created a monster, and I was having a difficult time finding the right people to help tame that monster. But mostly, I wanted to free up my time to pursue other opportunities that were available to me. Now the question for you is, did I just tell you a true story, or was this just an April Fool's story I made up? Wouldn't it be funny if I just ended the video like this? I think it would be funny. It might be really annoying to some viewers not knowing, was this a true story or was this not a true story? Which I think would be funny. And that's what matters most, isn't it? Maybe I should say something like, stay tuned for the next video where I will reveal if this was a true story or just an April Fool's story. Wouldn't that be really annoying? Funny though. Either way, maybe someone will be inspired by it. Just because I am no longer selling that product doesn't mean there's not still worldwide demand, doesn't mean someone couldn't pick up where I left off. I'm pointing over there because there are manzanita trees over there. Or maybe someone will start looking around at some of the things around them that they think are worthless because they have an abundance of them, that could be valuable to someone else, maybe on the other side of the world, because they just don't have those things. Or what opportunities might there be, but you can't see them because they're right there in front of your nose. Your nose is in the way, your eyeballs can't see them. All you have to do is move your nose out of the way, then you'll be able to see them. That was a weird way to say that, but maybe you know what I mean. The common belief around here historically has been the value in forest land is its ability to grow timber. Timber is what is valuable. Brushy species like manzanita are not valuable. They're actually a liability. But I found a way to make manzanita on this property worth more per acre than the timber is. Sometimes opportunity is not doing what everybody else is doing or what everybody else has done. Sometimes opportunity is taking what people normally do and turning that upside down. Yeah, but was this a true story or not? I showed you pictures. What more do you need? Yeah, they were kind of blurry, but they were old pictures. And it's not even April 1st anymore. It's too late for April Fools anyway.